What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Too Loud Podcasts. We're the podcast hosts you never asked for. I'm Avie.
I'm Shy. How you doing, Avie?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Great. So, did you hear today about that NASA apparently discovered a parallel universe?
I did, but I didn't. All I know is that. That's all I know.
Yeah, it was literally all over social media. I swear that's all I saw all over Twitter and everything today.
Am I surprised? No. But the fact that in our last podcast we're talking about the government saying, yeah, these are UFOs, and now NASA's like, yeah, there's parallel universes. This year has been too much.
So do you think that's possible? And if so, what do you think a parallel universe is?
I feel like I'm definitely one of those people, we are not the only universe. We have to be, there's so much that I feel like we can't even think about thinking about it because it's just so mind-blowing. And I feel like there's billions and trillions, but I also believe in reincarnation, and they say reincarnation is reincarnation kind of related, but deja vu is because of the parallel universes.
Mm-hmm.
And there, in certain universes, I read that you can, once you learn how to skip time, you can move to different parallel universes, but it moves every other you in each universe too. So I don't know, I think that stuff is so crazy to think about, and I feel like it's intimidating for people because It's what?
Would you be excited or let down to know if it was real or fake?
I think I would be let down in a sense because it would just kind of be really, we're the only universe, but at the same time, I guess not excited, but I would almost be relieved also then, because it's almost like my human nature to okay, if it's just this one universe, that's fine, because that's easy to comprehend.
Yeah.
Trying to think of
every other
universes.
as if our universe and our world isn't fucked up enough as it is. Let's throw in a few more.
And I'm sure if there are parallel universes, I feel like that's bending time and space and all that stuff. There's not just one other or a couple others. There's gotta be a
if there's one, there's probably a million.
Right. So I don't know.
Well, this whole story kind of started, the New Scientist published a story 6 weeks ago, and the headline was, "We may have spotted a parallel universe going backwards in time." A little scary, and obviously...
Hold on. Who's going back to the corona's origin? Somebody's going back. Somebody's mad.
Somebody's mad, and they want to get to the fucking bottom of this.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so that was the headline. First of all, of course that's gonna stir up some shit.
Yeah.
No fucking duh. So basically what this is all about was that studies were conducted in Antarctica of cosmic rays, which are high energy charged particles coming from outside of Earth's atmosphere. So there's this antenna. It's called the Antarctic Impulsive Transient Antenna, or ANITA is the...
ANITA, I love it.
ANITA is the acronym for it. So it's a balloon-based experiment that found upward pointing cosmic ray-like events. So the ANITA results had evidence for another universe where time would run backwards from the Big Bang, and where antimatter would dominate, and that is where the parallel universe claims come from.
Mm-hmm.
So, not to let you down, but it was way overblown.
So they're saying when our universe was made, another universe was made that went the opposite way.
That went yeah. That's how I understand it in my head, I guess. But again, this is all of this is so far over my understanding. But that's kind of what I'm getting, is that time is just backwards there.
Yeah.
which
Are
I
we
don't know,
backwards?
but it could be. So yeah, it was way overblown, and it definitely misrepresents what the research of this story was actually about.
Can I say that Shy fooled me?
Yeah, I told Avie, I was like, I'm bringing a current event. You probably already heard of it because I did send you a little
I
thing
would
of it.
say,
But
she
like,
said it on Twitter, and that's all I saw, and I was like,
but I
bruh,
was
what
like,
is that?
don't look into it because I want to bring you the information, get like your actual
And I'm like, sweet parallel universes. And she's like, are you excited? Are you
I'm like,
scared?
well, you shouldn't be.
Well, you're an idiot. So here you go. Here's the real story.
So basically, the real story is that scientists found evidence of these fundamental particles that defy our current understanding of physics. So, not really we're not sure what the fuck these particles mean.
Yeah.
They're not the same as our physics that we understand now. But one of their guesses is that it could be an issue with like how particles interact with ice, I guess. Which makes sense since they're doing it in Antarctica.
Yeah.
But there is literally zero evidence of a parallel universe where all the rules of physics seem to be operating in reverse. That is not true at all. The only real conclusion is that the standard model concerning neutrinos, which is the fundamental particles that I was talking about, doesn't explain the direction or the detection of a rare kind of event by Anita. So like there's some stuff going on that they're not really sure about, and there's new particles and whatever, but a parallel universe was blown out of proportion. And I thought it would be good to talk about because I had quite a few people actually send me this article like, did you see that? And at first I was like, oh fuck yeah, parallel universe, sweet.
And I was like, yes, like, woo!
I know. And then I read it and I was like, fuck. I really thought this is our way out. I don't know. But yeah, so it's not true. And I thought it would be important to share, like, it's not true. There's not a parallel universe.
Yeah.
I know it's exciting to think about. I got excited too, just like Avie did, but it's false. And we're still, unfortunately, only in this universe.
So let's say we're like in Rick and Morty universe, and there's universes for everything. What would be your ideal universe? Like literally no rules. It's literally your world. Like what would it look like?
Just fucking, first of all, nobody would have to work if they didn't want to. It would be strictly like volunteer if you want to, do this if you want to. It would be like more off like so much less industrialized.
Yeah.
Like I think in this universe, I would be a lot better at like not being so reliant on technology and like everything that we have now. Like in my ideal universe, we would like go back to basics, not get so far ahead in technology where it matters, you know, in medicine and stuff, obviously, like that's great. But like, I think like I'd really like to have like a lot less TV, like cars not be such a, you know, and like a lot more of like living off the land, using the resources that we have, not having to fucking work, fuck money, like that is a social construct, non-existent in my opinion. It would be non-existent. Like we would be like humans would be equal, just period. Like there wouldn't be the fucking Jeff Bezos of the world and there wouldn't be me of the world. Like complete polar opposites, you know, like it would just be like happy. Not so much competition and just people living however they want. There wouldn't be all of these countries and nations that are fighting. Like you can travel wherever the hell you want because the world should be everybody's. And what would yours be?
Okay, well, yours sounds perfect. Mine, weed would be legal.
I was just gonna say, and then there would be a lot of weed in mine.
Weed would be legal, and it would be like what crops and like vegetables are like now to us, like that, like genuine, like I feel like everyone, we just have weed everywhere, okay? Everywhere, all right? And there would be so many mom and pop shops, like it'd be like families like together cooking, like, and that's something that's important to me. Like I love cooking with my family. So like it would literally just be like a stoner's paradise. But I just feel like number one, everyone's chill. Like, and if you don't want to smoke, you don't have to. Like, you could be completely sober, but you're still gonna get bomb ass food, and like nobody would have to work because we would all support each other, and like we would all feed each other, and like I just like the whole communal thing. Like, still, obviously, like I definitely want my own house. Like, I like my own space, but like that, like gathering of like humans, like
a
it would
lot
just
more
be nice. Yeah, to be so like down to the basics where like nobody on the street looks at somebody else and says, oh, I'm better than them. Like they just see everyone as people. We're all people. We all live here. That would, I don't know, that would be cool.
Yeah, totally agree. I think
and dogs everywhere, puppies, kitties, animals everywhere.
I feel like our universes would be really similar, probably.
Yeah, I agree.
Perfect. Well, let's start one.
How about you just take a country, I'll take a country, we make it our own. Maybe.
But I'm saying, like, I don't want countries in my universe. The land is everybody's. Nobody owns land. It's just land, and you go where you want to go.
We tried to make a world once. We got like halfway through and bailed.
Excuse me. What do you mean you tried to make a world once?
You and I on Fortnite.
Okay, you should have clarified that. I'm like,
yeah, we tried to make a world with science. And
I thought, well, you were like, we tried. I thought you meant you and Sherry. I'm like, what what are you talking about? Like, you did not give like a context to that at all. It was just like vomiting.
This is what I do.
I know.
No track mind. Completely all over the world. That doesn't have crunchies.
Crunchies?
Countries. I like crunchies.
Maggie.
Speaking of the feeling I'm feeling.
So this episode is focused on physicians-assisted suicide. So a pretty heavy topic, very controversial topic, and we wanted to freaking cover it.
Yeah, really. Definitely a content / trigger warning. We definitely talk about suicide and the end of life and things that have to do with, terminal illnesses and stuff like that. So just know that that's what we'll be covering.
For show. Oh, that was cringy, but I said it anyways.
Listen, sometimes things just come out.
It's fine. So physicians-assisted suicide is like basically when a doctor helps a patient die. Like, but it's not just like, I can't just walk to my local physician and be like, kill me.
Yeah.
Like,
please
put me out of my misery. No, it's like you have to have a terminal illness, where they're giving you at max 6 months to live. And then at that point, they would give you a pill that you would take, and it would kill you. So that's the very, basic bread and butter way to explain what it is. So yeah, do you want to talk about where it's like legal and stuff?
Yeah, so the Netherlands and Switzerland is like the most well-known countries where assisted suicide and euthanasia are able to be practiced. And Belgium is considered like the most liberal in that sense. Yeah, basically meaning like
pause. My dog. Okay. I'm not gonna freaking know how to edit this out. So if it's still in here, guys.
Listen, we're
this
just
is Lucy and Drake.
I honestly say we should just go ahead and.
I just thought they were gonna have a whole canoe shit, but they ended up stopping. So.
Well, Shy has 2 dogs. They are lovely dogs, but and if you hate dogs,
so damn loud at my neighbor. What?
Anyways, so like I said, the Netherlands, Switzerland, and then Belgium is probably like the most progressive in all those, which is kind of the same as Oregon here in the United States.
Yeah.
So in June of 1997, in the case Washington versus Glucksberg, the Supreme Court ruled that state laws banning physician-assisted suicide were not unconstitutional. They did not violate the Constitution. And the court decided that each state can make their own laws. So it basically became a state issue. So that's kind of how it started opening up, I guess, in the United States, you know?
Yeah. And then that following October, Oregon created the Death with Dignity Act, and it became a law in that state. And then the next few states that we'll talk about kind of followed Oregon's suit in making their versions of the law. And those states where even now to this day, there's only 9 states where it's legal, including, and the District of Columbia. And the states where it's mandated by law is Colorado, the District of Columbia, Hawaii, Maine, New Jersey, and Oregon, and Vermont and Washington. And then mandated by court ruling is Montana and California.
So the court ruling is like case by case basis, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, and then the state
like
statewide, like if you qualify.
Did you know that?
I did because my senior year of high school, I was taking a rhetoric class, and we had to choose one topic to cover for the whole year, which rhetoric is like, it was like 2 different college courses, but we just called it rhetoric in high school. I don't fucking know. Mm-hmm. And we had to pick one topic to focus on the whole year, and this is a topic I did. Gotcha. So it I know a little bit about it. Of course, I was a good while ago, so I don't remember everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do know the very basic parts of it.
I did not know.
Schulte, if you ever listen to this somehow, look where I am now.
I did not know that this was like an actual thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know what I thought, honestly. It's just one of those things I
don't feel like, honestly, it's not talked about very much. At least in this day and age, I'm sure it's been controversial here and there, but I don't think there's been any huge stories where it's kind of resurfaced to for a reason for this to be really talked about, you know?
Switzerland, I feel like I knew that was a place you could go, that they did it there, but I never knew it was in the United States.
Yeah, I remember when I was in high school, so my oldest sister was in college, and she was going to be a nurse, so she had this medical ethics books, which, if you guys know me, I'm just a fucking nerd. I read I just like to read random shit. So I was reading about medical ethics just for funsies when I was a senior in high school. Fuck, I don't know. But that's where I found out about physicians assisted suicide, and then I was like, the fuck? I had no idea it was a thing anywhere, and it was really, really interesting to me. And then that's how I ended up picking that topic. So super random, but that's how that happened, and that's how I found out about it. But
I think people should know about it. But we'll get into that as we go on. We'll explain the different parts. So
yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, the Death with Dignity Act.
Sorry.
Who's talking now?
We just kind of go with it together, and so yeah.
So the Death with Dignity Acts were the laws that were made in Oregon.
The DDA.
The DDA. Oh God, we're so.
Oh God. I'm embarrassed on that one. I'm sorry. I apologize.
It's fine. We've said so much worse.
Nibble on that, audience.
It sounded like you just said nipple on that. Nipple on that one, audience.
They're gonna get really raw from this one because we're not editing shit. So
also we're hopefully gonna have this in a video format, so even less of a chance that anything will be edited out because we don't know what we're doing. So we're probably just gonna be like, here you go, enjoy.
Enjoy the ride, buckle up, it's a train wreck.
So cringy. Anyways, so the Death with Dignity Act is, like I said, it's where if you're terminally ill, 6 months less 6 months or less life to live. These acts basically say that you should be able to make your own end of life choices and make the decision on how much pain and suffering that you're willing to endure in these last few months of your life. So the statutes allow mentally competent adult state residents. You have to, like, if you're getting it done in the United States, you have to be a resident of the United States, and they can voluntarily receive a prescription to end their life. And kind of the goal of this was to give patients, dignity, control, and peace of mind at their end of death. Like, you think of people who, like, with some certain cancers and like ALS and like MS and stuff like that, where your life just, like, it changes so much so fast and you can become like a completely different person.
Right.
And like me personally, like if I got like diagnosed with brain cancer and they told me I had like 6 months or less left to live, like I would want to live as long as I was competent, but the minute like I started losing my shit, I would hope, like, I think I could definitely confide in my sister Ashley and be like, I want you to give me this pill, because when I stop becoming myself, I don't want to live like that anymore. And I don't want people to remember me like that.
Yeah.
It's like traumatizing. I even think of like my grandpa, he passed away from dementia and Alzheimer's, and he was not himself at all for like the last few years of his life, which obviously that's different. But you think about like the very last few months of his life, and like he wasn't himself at all.
Yeah.
And like I love him, and I didn't want him to pass, but like I wish I didn't have those memories of who he was, because that wasn't him. You know what I mean, if that makes sense?
No, it does.
So the point of these acts was to give people control over like not becoming that person if they didn't want to. Because again, it's completely voluntary. You don't like have to do this, but like it's an option. So that was kind of the point of it,
Yeah.
So yeah, again, Oregon is a leading state. And then do you want to talk about the kind of process of what if you chose to do this, what it would look like?
Yeah. So the death with dignity process. So you have to meet these criteria. So 2 physicians must confirm like that you live there in that state, your diagnosis, your prognosis, your mental competence, sorry. And how much you want to do, like how, like, do you feel you're forced to do it?
It's like, do you want to do it, or is this like you're fucking
like, is there something else that's affecting it?
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't know where. Oh, we say down there. Okay, so your first oral, you have to make a oral request. Basically, I would like to.
Yeah, and you can do this at any time, and like you can go to your physician. Even, I mean, honestly, even if you're not sick, I was reading that people even suggest to do this if this is ever something you worry about. Is like if you have a like family physician that you use all the time, like having a conversation with them if it's legal in that state and that's your attending physician, ask them like, if this situation ever happened, would you be willing to prescribe me this medication? Because physicians can say no, and they don't they don't have to.
It's voluntary for both.
Yeah, some physicians won't do this practice. So if they say no, then you know that, and maybe that will make you want to find another physician, or at least find one who is willing to do this. There's not like any sort of lists or anything of like physicians who are willing to do this, but yeah, so that's kind of where you start, is like first by asking your physician, and then if they don't, I didn't write this in there, which is why I'm explaining.
No, that's okay.
if they say like, no, I'm not willing to do this, then because there's this waiting period from your first oral request, and then you have to wait at least 15 days and then make a second oral request. So if you, on that first day, you ask your physician, like, are you willing to do this? And if they say no, that still counts as your first oral request.
That's good.
And your 15 days starts then. So even if you need to go find another physician.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So you also have to do a written request for the second one, correct?
You do an oral request, and then there's a waiting period of 15 days, except for in Hawaii, it's 20 days. And then you can wait 15 to 20 days, do the second oral request, and then you can do the written request anytime after your first oral request.
Gotcha. Which you have to have 2 witnesses, and one of them has to not be related to you.
Yeah, and they also can't be any of your care providers. They can't be your physician. Like, it would have to be like a coworker that you trust or something. And
Would
then
you
it
do
could
it
be
for
like,
me?
of course he would do that for you. I would just like anybody's wishes. Like, that's your life and that's your choice.
Yeah,
Then
I agree.
that is shit.
I would be sad, but I would respect it. You know what I mean?
Right. Of course.
So, and then there's a second waiting period. So DC, Hawaii, Maine, Oregon, New Jersey, Vermont, Washington, the physician must wait 48 hours from the time they receive the written request to write the prescription. However, there is no waiting period in Colorado or California. Mm-hmm. So I'm sorry, there's no second waiting period for Colorado and California.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, so basically kind of the point of these like waiting periods, I think, is kind of to like, are you sure?
Like, yeah, like
it's really making people like think through it.
Like you made the decision in that high. Sorry, right. I didn't mean to talk about it.
No, I was just saying, like, because of course, like, oh my God, I can't imagine being told I only have this long left to live, and then kind of making the choice, like, well, I'm gonna die anyways. Do I just want to have control over it? You know, like, that's obviously a very high emotion situation. And so, of course, giving that waiting period, like, makes you think through it and really gives you time to be like, okay, like, yes, I want to have control over doing this, or I just want to go naturally.
Well, I feel like for some, I couldn't ever relate, but I feel like for some people, like, I'm sure there's definitely, like, a shock or, like, like, literal shock of, number absolutely. 1, learning your diagnosis. Number 2, your prognosis, because prognosis is how quickly it'll progress, right? Mm-hmm. Like, diagnosis, what you have, prognosis is, like, okay, well, this is what it's going to be like. And like, I couldn't imagine getting that news and then also bearing that burden of like, is this the right choice for me and my family? Because, you know, no, like, oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah, it is super crazy. So after you have that second waiting period of getting the prescription filled out, it's basically, well, they can either write the prescription, but if either of the 2 physicians, because you have your attending physician and then there's kind of like a backup physician. So there's no one doctor making this choice on their own, which of course is cover their ass and for your protection and safety as well. So if either of the 2 physicians determine that there might be something affecting your decision, like mental illness or like extreme depression, which that I'm like, well, how would you not be depressed?
How would you not have those issues? Yeah.
Right. But so I guess I don't really know how they determine that. I'm sure they have like their evaluations and their certain signs and whatever that
criteria,
more than trained on to figure that out. But if they like determine that you have either one of those, they'll refer you for a psych eval that you have to complete. And I think like if you fail that psych eval, then you won't qualify for this and you can't do it.
I guess like I understand what you're saying, like how like I mean, how would you not have some mental illness or depression linked on to that type of trauma, because it is trauma, you know, for a human to, and but I feel like even the psych eval, like, and I guess like when me and my wife wanted to have kids, like we had to go get a psych evaluation, which, you know, not other people have to do that, but it kind of brought attention to like that, like not saying that people aren't capable of making the decision, but humans are just naturally so like emotional. And I'm not at all saying like, oh, you're too emotional or that people with illnesses are, you know, not capable. But I do think it would be important to take a look at that, because who knows, like if they could help you psychologically, maybe you could make I don't know. It's just
that,
I
well,
don't know.
but that is one of the things, like parts of this, which is important, is that if you have a mental illness, you can't make this decision. And I think that's really important, because like you might, I mean, that, like, that's why some people have guardians, and that's like why other people have to make decisions for them, is because they're not in the right mind to make that. And of course, choosing to die is the biggest decision you can ever make in your life.
Right.
So that's why they have those protections there, which is like really, really important. And I know they're super strict on that, as they should be, because like, I don't know, if you have schizophrenia or something and then you get cancer too, like it fucking sucks. Like people who have schizophrenia are still capable of a lot depending on your case. But at the same time, like the other symptoms from their schizophrenia that they're experiencing could impact their decision that they're making now that they otherwise wouldn't make. You know,
like how do you find that? That's
yeah. So, that's a lot. But basically, like once you get this prescription, once they write the script, you can go pick up the med, and then for most states, you can decide when and if you want to take that med. Like if you found out today you have 6 months left to live, and you start the process already of trying to go through with this physician's assisted suicide, and then you get to the next, what would it be? It would be about 20 days from now, 25 days from now. And then you get there, you get the script. You could go get that med and you could have it then, but you could choose to still wait like 4 months to take it. You could still live your life for 4 months. You could set your own date if you wanted, like the date that you plan to die, if that's what you wanted to do. Like it's really, for most states, it's in your hands of how you want to go about that, except in California and Hawaii. They do have like these certain forms. They both have these fancy names for it. I didn't write them down, but it's basically, they both have these forms that you have to fill out and send in 48 hours prior to taking the meds, so they know that the meds are being used and by who, which makes sense, because I thought of this too, and I'm like, well, that's kind of scary, because what if, like, this is an intense drug, like if you
it's going to end your life.
like if it could got into the wrong hands, like like you're dead. Like imagine if a kid got into it, which I would really hope that whoever has this drug would be like extremely, extremely careful with it if they choose not to use it right away. But I'm like, what if a fucking kid got into it? Or like it's just lying around, or if you sell them, or I don't know. But
hopefully someone who goes through that much to get them would like
Oh, and I'm
like,
sure
I guess,
they would, like, I don't think any Bill Bobby Joe is gonna go in and get one and then probably go sell it to the crackhead down the street. Like, that's maybe, but I don't think that's probably very likely, because this would be way too much work to get one pill. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, this is it's heavy. Like, it's heavy just talking about it.
I know, imagine experiencing it. Well, hope I never have to.
I hope I never have to watch someone either, like,
Yeah.
So, the American College of Physicians, they openly do not support physician-assisted suicide, due to ethics, policy, clinical practice, and they believe the bad part about it is it affects the nature of the patient and the doctor's relationship. So it of course it's going to change. I mean, everybody has their opinions and stuff like that, but that is going to seriously affect you and your doctor, because your doctor is there to keep you alive and to treat you and to help
save your life. Like that's what the point of
that
is,
right? And it goes against that nature of the relationship. It also affects the trust in said relationship and the profession. So kind of like we said, like a doctor is supposed to heal people and help people, and this kind
Yeah.
of goes right against that.
Yeah, because I think about it like, the extreme, like, radical people who like to, not saying that protesting is bad, like, I'm all for safely protesting, but I think about the people like who are like going to be hardcore against this. Like, if they find out a certain doctor is doing this, like, imagine the backlash that doctor probably gets. Imagine.
Right.
Like, I'm sure they're called like a killer, a murderer every single fucking day. Like,
Yeah.
how, as a physician, like, that's gotta be so hard. But I mean, I guess at the same token, they're already experiencing that with doing abortions. So
Yeah. So, which goes along with the next part of it, pretty much alters the medical professions in their role in society. It does make people look at doctors like you're a killer, or you
right.
know, it's never going to be, black and white with society. It's just how people are. There's always going to be people who disagree, but there are people in this world that will look at doctors and hospitals and medical professionals differently, because
Right.
like
Like,
we said, it's their job to heal us and care for us, and
yeah.
some people
Like,
don't see it as a
right.
sacrifice, or
Like, I guess when I think of this, like, I picture like the, Karens of the world being like, oh, don't go to doctors, they're gonna kill you, like, because they do
yeah,
this one small part of their practice that probably happens once every 5 years or something. Like, honestly, this isn't practice a ton.
yeah,
um
it's not like
and they're
every
gonna
day
be
there's
like,
billions of.
right, and like these fucking, there will, I'm sure there already is people who focus on this one thing that they do and make the doctor's entire career about that, and just be like, we can't trust doctors anymore because they will kill us. I mean, like I said, it's the same thing. Like, it's, in my mind, it's relative to the same argument against abortion. It's like, you're killing a baby. Oh, well, now you're killing a terminally ill person. So,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So then we talk, like, we just looked up very briefly like if there was like suicide tourism in other
I
countries.
thought that was a weird, like, name, like,
Yeah,
to
like
call it,
suicide
like, suicide
tourism.
tourism,
Like,
like.
fuck, okay, that's pretty demented.
Go
But
on a cruise, end up in Switzerland.
might commit suicide, I don't know. Like,
I don't know. Like, it just seems super, like,
like
brash. I'm like,
nonchalant. Like,
oh
it seems
my God.
like literally saying suicide tourism seems like so like nonchalant, and like, it's
Hey, you want
obviously
to go to
not.
Switzerland and kill ourselves? You would be
Like,
up for it? You want
like
to go?
that's what it makes it sound like. And it's like,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Like, that's intense. Like, for me and you
It,
who are maybe a little morbid, we're just kind of like, but like to
yeah.
other people, like hearing suicide tourism, it's like,
It
what?
wasn't quoted, and I specifically quoted it because I'm like, I didn't write this question. Like, that's the way they worded it. So,
Yeah. So basically, like in some countries, yes, there has been tourism for this. It's not like formally suicide tourism is just feels so bad to say, but it is what
I
that's what it's called.
know.
So it's not
Yeah.
formally like forbidden in the Netherlands. Physicians work with the patient to establish that they meet the criteria. Like, I'm sure in
It's a
maybe I'm
longer process if you're coming from another country. If
right.
you're not a resident.
Yeah, like I'm sure they have their extensive process, which again, we just focus on what it looks like in the US because that's kind of
Yeah.
what's prevalent to us.
Right.
So we don't have their whole process, but they do have like criteria you have to meet. You can't just go there and be like, "What's up? I'm from Minnesota and I'm here to kill myself. Can you help
Thanks.
me?" Like, that's not how it goes.
Yeah.
But people still travel like Netherlands, and people travel to Switzerland to get this done. And according to some statistics, like 221 people traveled to the country for this purpose in 2018, and 87 of them were from Germany, 31 from France, and 24 from the UK. And I'm pretty sure that was they traveled to Switzerland for that.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
So, yeah, like, ugh. I mean, I get it though. Like, if you can't get it done there, you're gonna go somewhere where you can. And I respect that too, honestly.
Well, I'm sure there's lots of people in countries that don't have, there's states here, like, there's probably people in Ohio or Texas
right, that like travel to Oregon to get this done. It's like the same thing. So
right. So that's suicide tourism.
This is a little light topic for you there. Anyways, moving on.
So we kind of got, this part of it is not against it. It's just part of the argument on why it's so hard to make laws around this. So 6 months left to live. That's it. If you don't have 6 months or less to live, you don't qualify. And giving a diagnosis on how long someone has, I mean, even the most experienced doctors cannot accurately 100% be like, yeah, you're gonna die on this day. So
right, like, you know, there's those certain like miracle cases where people are like, you have 4 months left to live, and then they don't like, die like
10 years or whatever. Exactly. And that's kind of what it was saying, was that there's just so many different situations when it comes to terminal illnesses and all that stuff. So we were kind of asking, like, what does that mean, like, for legalities, like for the laws? Insurance companies can actually save a lot of money by pushing patients towards death instead of providing the means to keep them alive. Which, if you think about it, surprise, surprise, these are insurance companies, okay? They want to pay the least amount. And they
don't really give a shit about you, they give a shit about their monies, okay?
Literally. So is this a risk imposing laws? Well, in America, yes. That it's just how it is. Are insurance companies going to take advantage of this? Like, how big of a risk is this going to be for health insurance and insurance industries and healthcare industries? Like, how is that going to affect, that stuff? So we actually have 3 stories, short, quick, to the point, but they're 3 different people who experienced this situation. So do you want to tell the first story?
Yeah. So Jeanette Hall, who is an Oregonian, she lives in Oregon.
Perfect.
For all those people who don't speak douchebaggery like I do. She voted. I hate myself more every episode. So she voted for the ballot measure that made assisted suicide legal in her state. And then a few years later, in 2000, she was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and she was given 6 months to live, which obviously qualified her for physician's assisted suicide. So she was kind of left with 2 options. She could get chemo, attempt to fight her cancer, or she could take the lethal drugs to end her life. And she literally said, I was calling it over. I was going to do chemo. When I heard what might take place in radiation, I wasn't going to do it. I looked for the easy way out. But Hall's physician encouraged her to fight her illness. So
that's kind of, I guess, a situation where, like, she did consider it and it was an option, but she ended up not taking it.
Which I get, I'm like thinking of this. I'm like, her physician encouraged her to I don't know if I like that, because it's not really your choice, and I don't know if you should be given, but I guess if you were asking, like, medically asking for their opinion, fair. But at the same time, I'm like, if that's her choice and that's how she felt, I feel like her and her family and the people who are close to her should influence her. I'm like, I don't know if I don't know how I feel about that. I have mixed feelings. I'm like,
yeah,
you talked her out of it, but that's kind of the choice that she wanted to make, and it's her choice to make. You know what I mean? Sure. Okay. Anyways, next story.
All right. So another Oregon woman, Barbara Wagner. So she pursued a life-extending therapy prescribed by her doctor after learning that her lung cancer had returned. And her insurance company rejected it. They were not going to cover this life-extending therapy prescribed by her doctor because her lung cancer was back. So They denied
you have
her.
cancer as your insurance company. That's not my problem.
Sorry. So literally, the company refused to cover it. It was way too expensive. And this would have prolonged her life. And instead, they offered to cover the lethal drug instead. She is quoted to say it was horrible. She got a letter in the mail that basically said, if you want to take the pills, we'll help you get that from the doctor, and we'll stand there and watch you die. But we're not going to pay for the medication that's going to prolong your life. So right then and there.
Which, that's so fucked up. Like, the Libra in me understands both sides. Like, I get it. Like, it's fucking expensive for insurance companies, but that's what the fuck we're paying you for. And that's why insurance should not be privatized. Like, they should not get a fucking opinion or a say. If I need life-saving treatment, I should get that fucking treatment, and there should be no damn question about it. Period.
Just wait till you read the next story.
It's just like, shut the fuck up. We're not gonna help you live.
Call every insurance.
If you want to die, girl, we got you. We'll help you kill yourself. Fuck off.
Yeah. So
there's that one. So Stephanie Packer, she was 29, and she was diagnosed with scleroderma. Scleroderma? They're probably saying that way wrong. Again, we're not fucking doctors. I don't know what all this shit is, but she was diagnosed with that and was told that she had 3 years left to live. So at the time that the story was kind of reported on, she was 34. She was still alive. But that was no thanks to her insurance company.
What? Really?
What? No way. So after California legalized assisted suicide in 2015, Packer was informed by her insurance company that it would not cover the prescribed chemotherapy, but it would cover the cost of drugs that would end her life for a mere $1.20 copay. How sweet of them. How considerate.
Oh my God. It's only $1.20?
I can really afford to kill myself. Fuck. I won't cover your chemo, but it's only $1.20 to end your life. You want to sign up?
And this is a real thing.
That's so fucked, bro.
Yeah. So these 3 stories, sometimes, so I wear glasses, and I just went to go push them, and I was like, wait, they're not there. Okay.
I do that, so I totally understand.
So these 3 stories, the reason why I guess we wanted to also bring this point in is because it shows like how complicated it is to find a medium for laws, because it's not just the patient and the physician. Mm-hmm. These big companies, corporates, they want money, and it is going to affect the laws. And if you think that it won't, you're oblivious to what goes on. Exactly. So they want to find like a medium for laws that would not only give the patients freedom to choose, but also protect them from being pushed into death. Mm-hmm. So it really makes you question, like, who actually determines our laws? Like I said,
Donnie J.
Not us. Oh my God. So does this pose a larger problem?
Well, like the suicide laws, like they advocate for death with dignity, right? But they don't reveal that, like, it could mean that this is giving insurance companies they can deny your treatment.
Hey, $1.20 to die.
Right. Like they
take it or leave it.
Well, we could pay for your chemotherapy hundreds of thousands of dollars, or
$1.20.
we could do this much cheaper option.
Yeah.
Where we could help you pay to kill yourself, and all you'll have to pay is $1.20. So that's kind of like the issue with these death with dignity acts, is like, while it's like, I don't know, I guess, like, it's so hard and mushy and squishy, and it's just, well, it really highlights again that insurance companies should not be privatized. They should not be making money off of us fucking dying and being sick. That's fucked.
Well, and we wanted to bring this point up because, you know, I feel like it's not just black and white. It never is. And we're not even saying here that it shouldn't be an option because of that. But that's why I feel like so many states kind of tiptoe around it.
Well, okay. And I think about, like, you know, so if you don't have like a great insurance, and like, I'm not this big old, I don't understand a ton of insurance or whatever, but say you have all of these, you learn you're dying and you want to go for the treatment, but it's going to cost you so much, even with insurance, and that's going to be left in a family member, someone you love. That's going to be their problem once you die, right?
Right.
So then the insurance companies creep up and say, well, you have this option. How, like, for me, like, even if, like, I really feel like I know, like, even if I was told this, and I wanted to live out my final lives, but if it was going to end up costing my family to, like, go so far into debt after I die, I wouldn't do it, because I'm dying either way. I don't want to leave this as a problem for you after I'm gone. So that would, like, encourage me, even if I didn't want to, I would feel like I have to take this route. Because my insurance isn't going to cover the alternative.
Can you imagine how many people have been in that position? And
it's fucking sad.
It is. So it kind of brings in the question also, is advocating for these rights, would that backpedal us in our autonomy rights, our rights to our own bodies? Will it become not what we think it will? You know, it sounds so broad, but you know what I mean? Like, so another part of this argument actually surrounds access, which we could probably talk about this for hours, because I feel like both of us are pretty educated, both of her as in one,
me and my personalities,
and your other. Yeah. So access, so far, and this is just a general statistic, most of the people who have requested aid in dying are white, middle class, and typically well educated. And the thing is that it makes sense. They have the best access.
Wow,
they have the best
middle class white people have the most privilege again. Who would have thought?
So disadvantaged groups might consider this quicker death because they don't even have good health care to begin with. They don't have
access to the alternative.
They don't have access to doctors, great doctors, and these super qualified, you know, people that help them, along with the money and the means to be able to get that care. Mm-hmm. So then are we left to basically saying, okay, if you're this, and this, you don't qualify. Like, right. And I'm sorry, but you're going to have to just figure it out. You're going to have to go with that $1.20 copay. If you can't afford the life-saving treatment,
you're going to have to kill yourself.
Problem, okay?
Yeah,
so
literally.
Like just die, you know? And yeah, if you want to go on.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
yeah, this is the so frustrating part. Yes.
So there are well-documented disparities in the access to healthcare services. Like, that's not news to anyone. And if it is news to you, then you're ignorant and you need to research. I'm sorry.
It's not a biased opinion. It's fact. Like, it's proven, factual.
Yeah. So with people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, those with lower health literacy, and members of ethnic or racial minorities being less likely to receive adequate care. Which, I mean, that's already happening. Like, you see all around, like, I see so much on, like, Twitter, which obviously, you know, like, Twitter isn't fucking...
It's Twitter.
It's Twitter.
Yeah.
But you still see, like, Twitter can also be so powerful because you learn about stories that you otherwise wouldn't know of. And I see all over Twitter all the time, like, Black women and men who can go to the hospital, be diagnosed with the same thing as I would be, and they're going to die and I'm not, because they're not receiving the right care. Yeah. And I am, because people, like, this is again just so much stigma around, and I'm just using Black people as an example because this is what I've already like seen about in life. I'm not saying, you know, whatever.
Right.
But just these stories that I've seen is like people think Black people are they're lying, or you're just, you know, you're being dramatic, or they're just trying to, you know, fucking use the system, abuse the system. And so they're denied care and then they die because nobody believes them. Because they go to their doctor and tell them something's wrong and they're told, you know, you have a common cold or some bullshit like that. That already happens. Like, it's very real and it does already happen. And that's just fact. And you can look at all the stories everywhere. That is not an opinion. That is what's happening in our healthcare system. So to think about like this added layer of like, oh, well, now one of our healthcare options is killing somebody instead of giving them treatment. I just, yeah, for minorities, I can see that being a huge, huge problem.
Yeah.
Even more so than it already is, you know? Right. Fucking sad.
It is. Well, and likewise, people with disabilities, people with ALS or MS or, you know, things like that, people with disabilities, the disability rights community have already kind of outwardly said, like, it makes them uneasy because to them, it could mean that they're not going to get to live a good, fulfilled, full, like, life. Basically, like, would that change
I do not
their
mean to
options?
laugh right now. I'm so sorry. I just need to say it because if we upload this video, they're gonna see me laughing. And I'm not laughing at what she's talking about. I was laughing that she said fulfilled full.
Did I?
Yeah. And I was really trying to hold it in. And
Fulfilled.
I couldn't. She's like fulfilled full. And I'm like,
and I'm over here like,
listen to me.
Anyways, so they're worried that they won't receive the resources that they need to live meaningful lives despite their physical limitations. There are people who have disabilities that want to live with them and be, you know, I can't hear you. So that's,
they want to be a functioning member of society who just functions a little bit differently.
Right, and that's okay. And and so does that mean then those people are going to be
denied their treatment?
Yeah, like, are they going to be neglected then because
it's cheaper if you just kill yourself?
Exactly. Which I loved this quote. I even bolded it and everything. But I love this quote because I feel like no matter how you feel, like, this kind of shows, I guess, a whole look that you would have never thought. And it says, some right to die activists have written about assisted dying as an antidote for indignity that occurs at the end of the life, such as needing to help to get dressed or to use the bathroom. If you're a person with functional limitations, that's a real slap in the face. And I think that's also important because like I said, there are people that want to function in society, maybe a little differently, but they're still a
fucking human. They still deserve to live, even if they can't fucking dress themselves or someone needs to wipe their ass. That doesn't mean they're less of a human.
Or that they want to die, you know? Right. And so the person that said that, her name's Carol Gill. She's PhD APA. She's a working group member and professor of disability and human development at the University of Illinois at Chicago. Yeah. So I don't know why, but when I read that, it was just kind of like we were researching and I'm like, oh yes, like, I believe everyone should have the right, like, we should, you know, this is good. And then it's like, you get into this and it's like, there are people on the other side of this that are like, I don't want to die. Like, I don't want to die. And the fact that you think that this, like, that you're advocating so extremely, like, you're basically saying, like, we should just opt for that because we live horrible, meaningless lives. Yeah. Like, and that I thought that was a good quote.
It is, yeah. So then, another complicating factor of this all is religion, you know, because there are a lot of hospitals that are affiliated with religion. Like, one here in Minnesota is Avera. Like, they're a Christian hospital, and I'm willing to bet that they probably would not allow this in their hospital. But
we have one, Mount Carmel, and my boss, Misty, when she had her second kid, you know, she was like, I want my tubes tied. I'm done having kids. And they denied it. She had to have written permission from her husband. And yeah. So, like, even in little things like that, I mean, she couldn't do it.
Yeah, ask my husband if I can have any more kids or not. It's his body, not mine.
Yeah, so
that's
but go on.
That's a different conversation.
I know. I'm like, that's so over in left field, but like, still.
Oh, you know, I'll go off on a rant about that.
Well, maybe we'll do that one time. Like,
we will.
Religious hospitals.
Fuck. Women's fucking rights or lack thereof. Anyways, so why I bring this up is in Colorado, a doctor was fired from Centura Health, which is one of the two religiously affiliated health systems in Colorado, that has said it was opting out of the law because of its Christian beliefs. Like I said, like probably Avera here would do in Minnesota for those of you in Minnesota. So this doctor was fired days after she and a patient asked a state court to declare that she could not be sanctioned for helping him seek life-ending drugs. And this kind of sparked a debate on what it means to assist someone and the lengths that they are allowed to go and the lines that they are not able to cross. You like that little spice?
I liked it. It spiced it up.
Oh God, I'm gonna fuck this last name.
Jason Spitalnik.
Spitalnik. Now imagine that's a doozy of a last name.
Poor Jason.
So Jason Spitalnik, I can't, was one of the lawyers representing the doctor and the patient, and he pointed out that the law says helping a patient get life-ending drugs does not constitute euthanasia or assisted suicide under the state's criminal code. So the patient had undergone chemotherapy intended to extend his life. He said he eats about a quarter of a meal each day and he cannot exercise. So he's expected to eventually have trouble breathing and lose his ability to control his bowels and bladder. And
the patient
does not have children and does not want his siblings to have to take care of him. And this is a direct quote, just because they're blood doesn't mean they have to suffer and go through all of this, he said.
Which is so sad.
That's kind of a story of like these systems who have probably more say over stuff like this than they should.
Yeah.
Like, why? Really? This doctor was fired for trying to carry out this patient's wishes? Like, that's also what a doctor is for, you know?
Right.
Like, that's what you go to the doctor for. Is like,
I would expect my doctor to advocate for me and my rights and my wishes, but it's not always like that.
My dogs are. Can you hear them?
It's very, very light.
They're starting to play now, so if you guys hear them in the background, just ignore it, because I can't control them. They're out of control. Yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of that.
Yeah. So, I guess
some questions that I had read anyways that I thought were really good questions that we could talk about. I saw the answers for some of these questions, but I didn't write them in there because I wanted to see what you said. I'm so conniving. I'm just like, let me do this and not tell you. So
when we started it, she's like, I'm doing something at the bottom. Don't scroll down. And I'm like, okay.
So question number 1, is it morally ethical for a physician to cause death intentionally?
Is it morally ethical for a physician to cause death intentionally? If it's the choice of the patient, I think it's ethical.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think if you practice patient-centered care, which many physicians do, yeah, I feel like that is morally ethical because that's part of their care. That's a choice that they're making about their life and their care, you know?
And I also agree that there should be waiting periods and evaluations. Like, I don't know what those should be or what they should look like, but I definitely feel like there should be a lot of checkpoints that someone has to go through. You know, it's kind of like when you're transitioning, if you're transgender, there's a lot that you have to go through.
You can't just like, oh, hey, doc, I want this.
Right.
Okay.
So,
like, you know.
Right. So I feel like if you have gone over it with the patient, this patient has expressed it multiple times and has gone through and met the criteria of what they feel makes you competent enough to decide this, then yes, I believe it's ethical for them to do that.
Yeah, I agree. So are there patients who benefit from death?
I think it depends on the person. I think that's also part of every person's situation. Like, I think it would be really difficult to make a blanket law. Like, it would be kind of like, you know, a case-by-case basis. I think that people will see benefits in death differently. There are people who, you know, don't want to just tap out. And I feel like it's really bad to say tap out. Let me rephrase that because that's not what I meant. But there are people who would rather try and live through it and live with it, and there are people who feel that they're at a point that I don't know.
I am so please, like, if you're watching this, I really hope we can get the video to work because my dogs are literally being crazy right behind the camera I'm looking at, and they're barking at each other, and it's so hard to ignore when they're literally right there, and I'm like,
no, I get it. I completely get it.
Yeah, I agree for the most part. I think personally, my own personal view. So if you disagree, that doesn't make me crazy. It just means I disagree with you, okay? Let me just make sure that's understood. So are there patients who benefit from death? Yes, I think so, absolutely. I can remember being so young. Like, me and my sister Ashley have kind of always just talked about, like, this kind of stuff. And, like, I can remember telling her, like, literally when I was so young, like, that if anything ever happened to me, like, even if it's not legally, like, I want you to kill me somehow because I don't want to become somebody that I'm not. Like, I don't want to just lose my mind and, like, fucking be eating ornaments and, like, I don't want to be that person. Like, I would rather die. And that's not how I want people to remember me. And I'm sure a lot of people agree with me on that. Like, yeah, I know my sister does, for one, because I remember her telling me the same thing. And I told her if I ever had a funeral that I wanted her to wear orange. Why? I don't know. That's what I wanted at that time when I was younger. No idea why, but that's what I said. So are there people who benefit? I think absolutely, because I think obviously I would never know until I'm in that situation, but being on the outside looking in, I would think I would want that option.
Yeah. So I kind of want to piggyback off that and maybe get a little bit heavy here. But recently we had lost my uncle to cancer. Very aggressive. I mean, he was diagnosed and months later he was gone. And it's so hard for me because I feel like I'm already biased. And then that situation happened, and it, like, as we're talking about this, it kind of like is in the back of my mind. Like, not only my Uncle Steve, but my dad. My Uncle Steve was in so much pain, and none of us wanted to go. It was so quick. I mean, it wasn't something that any of us were prepared for. Not that you ever are, but it was very, very sudden and quick. And I just sometimes think, like, if he was in that position, like, not saying I wanted him to die, but he was in so much pain. I mean, at the end, he had lost so much weight because he was just so...
but the thing is that I want to point out too is, like, it's not about wanting to die. Like, right. This is a situation where you're going to die. You're dying, like, period. Yeah. So it's kind of like, do you want to die this way or do you want to die this way? And that's what I think about, like, because I heard you say, like, not that you wanted your Uncle Mike to die, but if he had this option, like, would he have wanted to take it? Because would he have wanted to die the way that he did? Like, and that's kind of, to me, like, that's what it's about. It's like, you're dying either way, but in my opinion, that is part of your life, and I think you should have some control over the way that you're going to die. And that's what I think this kind of stuff is all about.
I agree. And like, I think my biggest thing, and I'll openly say, like, it's a selfish look on it, is like, you know, seeing my cousin go through losing her dad. Like, I think about my dad, you know, if you know me, you know, my dad is my best friend. If anything were to ever happen to my dad, I don't know what I would do. And it's like, I selfishly just think about it, and I feel like he is that type of person. He wouldn't want that burden on us. But honestly, like, it's so hard for me, because I'm like, I will take care of you until your absolute worst day on earth. Like, I would wipe my dad's ass. Like, I would do everything and anything and sit by him until his last minute. And it's like, I'm sure, like, that adds a complicated twist as the families.
Yeah.
And
well, I think, like, at least for us anyways, I think we can both speak, like, we're very caring people, and we would do that for anybody we care about. I would do that for nearly anybody, just because, like, I would do that for my fucking neighbor that I don't know.
Yeah.
Dogs. Oh my God, they almost just knocked over.
They're like, Mom, are you almost done? Mom?
So, you know, being like the caring people we are, I think naturally, like, we would do that for anybody. I would care for, like, that used to be my job. I used to wipe ass for a living, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I would do that for anybody. And I would gladly, like, if anybody in my family asked me, like, hey, can you care for me at the end of my life? Absolutely, I would. But I think the part that, at least to me, is that needs to be in focus is respecting their wish that they don't
right.
want that.
And that's why I said, like, this is
willing
completely
and
selfish.
selfishly, if you want that, I completely understand, because I would too. I absolutely would too. Like, what if my mom got sick? Would I want her to choose this option? Not necessarily, but I also wouldn't want her to suffer and go through something that she doesn't want to go through. And ultimately, I think at the end of the day, it's her fucking choice, and I need to respect that, whether I agree with it or not.
Right. So, well, and I get that too. Like, it's like, would I respect it for my dad? It would be really, really hard. Did I say expect or respect? I said respect.
No
right?
idea,
I meant respect.
But you, whatever, respect.
Yeah, whatever. Of course I would respect it, because I'm not the one living it. But it's so hard not to think about that other part.
Well, right, like, and of course, like, you're still gonna, like, I imagine you're gonna be fucking angry if somebody else is making this choice. You're still gonna be angry. You're gonna be sad. You're gonna go through all of the grief stages. Just the same.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't say just the same. It'll be a different experience, but you're still gonna go through grief. Yeah. And you're still gonna have to, like, at the end of the day, they are dying either way. So you're gonna have to process it either way. It's just about how you're processing it. Right. And giving this person the control over when they get to. And hey, like, maybe you could, like, I know this might sound a little bit morbid, but, like, when I think about it, like, I'm like, you could plan, like, your last day, and you could have the best last day ever. Yeah. And then you could die so happy because you have the control over exactly what you wanted your last day on earth being. I have, like, chills because
I know. I'm like, bro, like,
it's heavy, but I'm like, that's what I think is, like, oh my gosh, my freaking dogs. I'm like, I don't know why, but for some reason, like, My Sister's Keeper, like, pops in my mind when it's short. Have you ever seen that or read it?
Yes. It makes me cry every single time. Every time.
Like, when it's towards the end of her life and they're, like, doing the most beautiful things and living exactly how she wants to after they finally accept it. I'm like, that's what I feel like this gives the people the choice. Like, you could have the most beautiful last day ever, and you could set a date where you plan to die, and that way, then, like, people know it's coming. And can you ever really prepare for it? No. Right. But at least you don't walk in to them dead in their bed. You, like, you know, like, it's controlled in some way, and maybe there can be some comfort in that.
Yeah. This is good talk. So last question I'm going to ask you. Is it morally equivalent? Is it the same thing morally to either withdrawing or withholding life support? Do you think it's the same thing?
No. I think
Equally.
no.
Or
I
not the same thing, but do you think it's equal to doing that?
No. Because I think it's two very different things.
I agree.
Like,
well, I feel like one is the patient's decision. I'm sorry. I'm like, hey, answer this question.
You go quick because I need to tell my dogs to calm down. So answer the question first.
So I guess like when I think withdrawing or withholding life support, basically taking that person off life support, is because that person is not able to make that decision themselves in whatever capability, whereas physician-assisted suicide is what they chose to do. And I feel like it's similar, but it's not the same situation.
That's what I'm saying. Different. Like to me, I'm like, no, like fucking out, like completely different to me. Like it's different than somebody getting in a freak car accident. They're on life support. Oh, well, actually they're not because we're withholding it.
Yeah.
It's not the same because this person is choosing, goes through a process to choose to die. Like it's just, to me, like it's not the same at all. But I still thought it was an interesting question. Like
I definitely, because it makes you think, because you know, what about those people that are dying from a terminal illness, and what if they, you know, I don't know, because I'm like, what if they end up like going unconscious and then another family member makes that decision, like, but it doesn't even matter because again, someone else is making that decision, like in some way, shape, or form. You are not capable
making the decision
in any, like in one way or another, of making that decision. And I think that's the difference, is physician assisted suicide is 100% built around making sure that that's exactly what you want.
Voluntary choice. There's so many
protections process around
making sure that you're in the right headspace to make that choice. There's waiting periods to make you think through it, make sure you want to, and then it's at your own discretion if you want to take it and when you want to take it. So if you got it and you decided you didn't want to do it, that's not what you want to do, then you don't have to do that. You can dispose of the med just like you would any other med. You can bring it to the police, have them dispose it, crush it up, fucking throw it down the toilet. I don't know. Like, you don't have to take it if you don't want to. And that's what it's all about, is having control. At the end of the day, to me, it's like that. It's about having control over what's happening in your life.
Right.
I think everybody should be entitled to.
Yeah. The end.
The end. So I guess the big question, do you think this should be legalized across the 50 states or not?
And if you have any more, like...
No, I'm asking you that.
Me. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I think it should be accessible by everyone. Who fits that criteria. Like, I think that any person in the United States, if they fall under this criteria, which, like I said, I don't know what that is. I don't know if 6 months or less is good enough or what, but I feel like if you are able to, or if you fall under the criteria, I think you should be able to have access. And I think the biggest thing is when you said, like, having that control over making your life what you want it to be at the end. I mean, these are people that have terminal illnesses. Like, I just think if they want to live for another month and do everything that they wanted to do, and after that month is up, they're done, like, I believe they should have that choice.
Yeah, and then, so I agree. Again, like how I said earlier, again, it's obviously different than abortion, but I kind of relate it because it's both topics on ending a life on some way or another, whether you believe abortion is ending a life or not. I can see the similarities and like the arguments against it, and I'm like, again, I think yes, it should be legal because whoever that person is should have 100% rights and control over their body. if they meet the criteria, you know, like,
yeah.
Like we said, like the person who is
we're not like, oh,
have the
to
mental
be able to go to the hospital
capacity,
and be like, kill me.
right? The person who does not have the mental capacity to make this decision shouldn't. But if you do, why should you not have control of your body? Period. It's your body. It is yours. It is the one thing in this entire world that is and should be entirely yours.
Right.
If there's anything. And then just a little thought that came into my head too. I'm like, if you're really set on, if you're told that you're going to die and you want control over, do it. Whether you get a pill or not, you can kill yourself.
Right.
At the end of the day, like, it's not like this is the only way to end your life. It's just a humane way to do it. You know, like, I'd rather, if I was going to die either way, I would rather be given a pill. If I had the choice, I'd rather be given just one pill that I know exactly what's going to happen and how it's going to go, and prepare for it, and then take another method about how people end their lives all the time. Like,
right.
You can still end your life even if it's not this way. So why not give the humane option? Why not give a controlled option? You know what I mean?
Right.
But I do get the argument parts in, like, how we went over with insurance and kind of how people feel pressured into doing this. Like, there would absolutely be so many complicating factors that we can't even go into, because I just think ourselves as a fucking nation would never be even, we're not anywhere close to appropriately handling something like this in my opinion. Like, much like many other hard topics, like, just our fucking nation is not equipped to deal with this kind of stuff. But yeah, I guess at the end of the day, overall, I'm more of a proponent than an opponent.
I agree.
So, listeners, let us know what you think.
Yeah.
And have you guys ever even heard of this too? I'd be curious to know, because like I said, I learned about it in high school, but outside of that, like, I don't think I've never seen it in social media personally. I've never heard of it until I went out seeking for it. So I'm curious to see if other people know of it or have ever heard of it, and to what extent, and what your thoughts are on all of it.
I actually had a friend, we didn't speak a whole lot about it. Obviously, it's a very heavy topic, but she suffers from a lot of lifelong illnesses and stuff like that. And there was a point where, you know, she had reached out to me and we were just, you know, talking about things, and she had said that it was something that crossed her mind of going to Switzerland. And when she said it, I don't think I really registered exactly what she was saying until I researched it. And I'm like,
I just had like an epiphany too. What is that movie? Fundamentals of Care or something?
I never watched it.
Oh,
I didn't see that.
Oh, well, spoiler alert. Well, it's this movie about, a guy who had a disability and he had plans to go to Switzerland or whatever and have this done. I completely forgot about that movie. So if you haven't,
check it out.
I'm pretty sure it's Fundamentals of Care. So if you guys haven't seen it, watch it. It's a really fucking good movie.
I'm definitely going to check it out.
You will cry.
My Sister's Keeper is also another one. It's not necessarily about physician-assisted suicide, but
very sad movie that'll make you cry. The journey to
death, with the terminal illness, and it shows it from the mom, the dad, the daughter, the sister, the brother, the aunt. It shows all these different sides of this struggle that I have goosebumps because I'm like, I just couldn't imagine. So, but let us know what you think. We're super interested.
Now that you guys are all good and depressed.
I know. I was like starting to get, I'm like.
I know. Like when we were talking about like that last day, like I literally got chills. I was like, oh my God, I want to cry. Don't cry. Don't cry. Don't cry. We're trying to upload this video and you're not going to cry.
But I think we're like usual. We're always open for taboo topics and things that make us uncomfortable. And we don't know everything. We don't know the right answer.
Well, I do, but Avie doesn't. Okay, my dog was like, bitch, no you don't. He literally just pulled on my cord. So yeah, let us know what you think. Again, check the description for all of our socials. Business emails down there too. Shout out John Parks. We love you.
John Parks.
But for real, follow us on all of our socials. We really appreciate it. And it helps get the recognition out there as always. Don't forget to leave us a review, some stars. Don't leave us a review if it's mean though, you know what I mean? And
please don't. I will cry.
Hopefully, we really, really, really are hoping. I'm going to try to edit my first video and upload it. Never done this before. So
listen, you might get completely raw, okay?
You might. I might. I mean, that's very likely, actually.
Let's just say fuck it and just upload it all and just be like, you're welcome.
So, if you're watching this, please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. That sounds so weird to say, but
I know.
I mean, I guess either way, even if you're not watching this, please go like and subscribe to our YouTube channel because if this isn't the one that gets up, we're definitely trying
it'll be in the future.
In the future. It's all new. We're learning as we're going. We did not prepare to do a podcast of any sorts. We just kind of decided we're fucking gonna do it. So you're on this journey learning with us just as we're going.
Yep.
So as always,
shout out to us in 10 years when we're rich and famous from this. Hey, girl. Get your eyebrows done. I'm in quarantine.
Who? Eyebrows who?
My eyebrows are too thick for me to do them myself. Anyways, all right. So.
Wow. Yeah. But anyways, way off topic. Subscribe to our YouTube. Leave
Love
you on our channels. Follow us on our socials. And let us know what you think. We love you guys. This is Two Loud Podcasts.
See you next Sunday.
Next week.
Okay, bye.
Oh, fuck. I need to end the